Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called The Art of Reading Light Energy. Discover your unique psychic style by tuning into the frequency of subtle energies. My name is Stephen Dye. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm really delighted to be with you here, getting to explore a subject that I haven't really delved into, which is all about reading light energies. I tend to get a lot of intuitive information, but I often don't perceive as much around light and subtle energies. And so really intrigued to learn right alongside with you from a real pioneer in this arena. Her name is Jamie Butler. She's the founder of 4 companies, remarkable right there, and a nonprofit, all supporting metaphysical growth. So Jamie, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Stephen. I really appreciate this.
Great. Well, we're going to dive in. I know you've got some fun stuff planned for us. I also want to let everyone know right up front that we're going to have a brand new program with Jamie all about the art of reading light energy. So we'll share more about that towards the end of the hour. So Jamie, I'd love to start our time today with a little bit of your journey into reading light energy and what really propelled you on this path and devoting your so much life force to it.
Okay, it's really simple to sum up, but of course, many layers. So I came into this world seeing and hearing and engaging with subtle light energy, which also meant spirit or disembodied entities. And my family thought it was a very big imagination, a very creative skill of mine, and didn't really support it as much as probably I would have liked as a kid. So I kind of ended up packing it away until I moved out to college. And when I was away from my family, my parents, the ability to see and hear started coming back. And it was really difficult to live with. When you can perceive subtle light energy, you're bombarded with information coming from all directions. So I immediately sought to either be hospitalized, because that seemed like the rational thing back then, because you didn't feel so in your body and normal, and when comparing yourself to others. So that didn't go well. That didn't happen. And my dad confessed that this ran in my family. And I spoke to my grandmother about it, who kind of spilled the beans. That was comforting, but I still didn't know what to do with this because it was really overwhelming. So she said, why don't you be the first person to learn how to have a relationship with this? What can you do with it? How can you help other people? I never thought about using it to help other people. I was just struggling to be normal every day and go to college and not be bombarded at a grocery store and, information everywhere. So I started seeking teachers and gurus, and I quickly found out that they were teaching their process. Like it was a way of saying, hey, here's this method, here's this path, mimic me so that you can get these results. And I would try it, but it never felt like me. I didn't feel authentic. And so I just kind of hermited out, didn't read any books, just kind of stopped everything and did the journey on my own. But then I was very isolated. I felt very alone. I didn't know how to connect with others. And my big gremlin, if you need to know that straight out of the gate, is I want to belong. I want to belong. I don't want to be on a pedestal. I don't want to be put aside. I don't want to be seen as different, because I honestly believe that perceiving subtle light energy is the norm. I think this is the way that people work, but they've been taught out of it. And so I started to engage with spirit more and came across this way of being able to talk to everybody about my abilities through terms of color frequencies. Colors aren't threatening. So I would take my skills and kind of focus in on colors to help normalize the language and make it seem more accessible. I think anybody who finds a passion in life, it comes from a hardship of what they went through. And for me, it would absolutely be able to say, when I walk into a room, I don't have to pretend I'm somebody else anymore. And I did that for a really long time, Stephen. I actually would tell white lies and say that I bagged groceries at a grocery store. It wasn't going to be a career where somebody wants to follow up on that and take a deep dive on how those skills are. So that was my way of pushing people aside. Like, don't see me for who I am, because I don't know how to engage with it. Now it's very different. I feel more confident in connecting to the information that is in everything, animate and inanimate, and be able to use that in conversation and real time and not use it like a tool that you just go and grab and use it for that moment because I needed it and I needed some clarity and then put it down, because that's ignoring like 99% of who I am as an intuitive, as a sensitive. Now I embody it and use it and move forward.
Hmm.
So that's really where it stemmed from.
That's great. Well, I appreciate your vulnerability of also sharing about some of the desire to hide these capacities in order to blend in and fit in. I think that a lot of people can resonate with that, that there's, in a culture that doesn't necessarily see or celebrate psychic gifts, it can be a little bit like, oh, is this okay? So,
Right.
so thank you for helping people feel more comfortable with their own gifts by sharing that. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about, so at this point, having worked with it and practiced it, are you able to kind of like dial it up, dial it down, and really sort of like, feel like it's not overwhelming you, that it really feels like a manageable gift all the time now?
Yes, it actually took me about 2 years to figure out how to turn it down. It never really is off. That's like saying, let me cut my nose off my face so I don't smell anything anymore. It's a sense that is available at all times, but now I get it to where it's not just in my face, calling my attention. So.
Hmm, great. Well, maybe share a little bit about, first of all, like what you will tend to perceive when you dial it up or allow it to stay up. And so what do you often perceive when you're looking at somebody and their energy body and some of the light features of the subtle energies that you see?
And this is like my favorite topic ever. Thank you. Um, Perceiving energy. So for me, the way I develop my skills is seeing with my eyeballs. So a lot of my life looks like a little bit of a kaleidoscope, or you're looking through a stained glass window. And when I observe you, even remotely, if I think about your name in my head, I can observe your subtle light frequency that shines off of you. Some people call this the auric field, some people call it the energy field. And it comes in different variations and layers and textures and movement, and there's even shapes embedded in it. So for me, it would be more under clairvoyance. I think I developed that skill because I was a kid and I just wanted to be normal, like be okay. So I see and I hear. So when I come across subtle light energy, I can imagine that it's kind of separate than me. I see and I hear it, but it's over there. In actuality, we're kind of all mingled with it and we're all part of one. But I think that was my safety mechanism. So I kind of kept it as an adult. But if you come to class or if you've been in my classes, the way that I like to teach you is to your strength. So I will be very clear in what I do, but then I will follow up with, what do you do? Like, let's look at that, because I don't want to make duplicates of me in the world. I want authentic, readers. I want you to feel like you've really connected to the content and the material.
Mhm. Well, respecting that there is a great diversity that you're trying to make sure people honor,
Yes.
like what are some of the areas, things that you most want to look at first, or that you can sort of focus in on? Like, is it closer in? Is it certain patterns? Or there certain, I know, because I know there's structures and levels of energy body that people can perceive, and if there are starting places that tend to work for a lot of people.
Yes. The way that I like to look at energy, whether it's person, plant, animal, inanimate object, is observe the first frequency that's around them. So for me, it's seeing, but for others, it might be feeling, knowing, smelling, sensing, feeling. And once I get a hold of the first frequency, that really is a representation of, like, if we think about you in terms of a car, that first color that I pick up on would be the make and model of your car. You
Hmm.
don't buy a car every day, not every week, not every month, maybe not every year. I don't. It's something that's a little bit more stable, like the core. And then that tells me a lot about, like, what do you come from? Like, what do you carry? So that frequency is going to be in every word that you share. It's going to support every thought, every action that you're doing. So it's a really good, like, first notion of who that person is and where they're coming from. Then I like to look at the second and third. And if you can get through the three frequencies, perceiving three different frequencies, which can come down to color, you got a cheat sheet. You understand kind of the make and model of the car. The second one is like the gas in the car, what powers it.
Hmm.
And the third one is the motivation, or you can almost change that into perspective. What is your motivation? Why do you have the keys in your hand? Why are you going to the car? And so when you start to put those three together and look at each frequency, what those characteristics mean to you, and then what it means paired next to another one in relationship to each other, then all of a sudden you've got the storyline of who this person is and how they're showing up in the world.
So in terms of, let's start with that first one. So it's sort of like that's the core frequency, the make and model of the car. Where are you say that's like the first color or first light frequency that you pick up, or is it sort of tend to be in certain areas of the aura or close in, far out? Just a little bit more to sort of how you tune the dial to get that first frequency.
Okay, I love that you're associating it to the auric field. So the first frequency is commonly associated to the first layer of your auric field, your energy field, which is often known as the etheric double. It's very much about your physical body. It's like the duplicate of your matter body in light body. And that is that core foundation. And then, not like I'm saying you are layered like a cake, because everybody is so different with the light that they carry around them. But traditionally, there would be another layer on top of that. That would be the second layer of the auric field. And this is where I get into a bit of a debate. And I like to really include anybody who is in the class at the time, because there's so many different approaches to what our auric field is and how it influences the body, the personality, the identity that we carry. So some believe the second layer is associated to emotions. I don't necessarily see that. And I have traveled to different countries. I've worked in different cultures teaching this and noticed that the energy field is more, in my opinion, from my experience, more morphic. It changes. Like I really align with how Rupert Sheldrake talks about energy and how the body carries. And so once I can get a person in alignment to their belief systems around what the auric field is doing, they can get better organized with what they're experiencing and how to get the information from it to share it. So for you, when I observe your light body just from clairvoyancy, but in a moment we'll do something fun and I'll have you pick colors instead of me. In fact, I won't say the color just not to influence anything right now, but the second layer is more of a emotional layer, and your third layer around your body is more physical. And the first three frequencies that are around a person's body is really related to the physical plane. How are you activating this humanness of you, this incarnation and expression of this body? And so that lets me know that you are a very heady man, very organized, detail-oriented, but you won't be that way if your heart's not in it. If your passion's not in it, like you'll drop it in a heartbeat.
That's a very astute observation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You didn't. So you were saying you said the more emotional layer and then the physical layer. What was the connotation of the first layer, the sort of primary one?
The physical layer, so that's kind of where you come from, how steady you hold, but I thought we would hold off until I have you pick some colors before I talk
Okay.
about it.
Should we do that next so we can see where
Let's
the
do it.
balance is?
Yeah.
Great. So you sent me a link to a little color chart here. I think we can bring that up on the screen. And I would say that the first color I feel most drawn to is maybe this middle purple one. I mean, it says number 70369D to the right of it. So it's sort of like this middle purple color. And then I would say I'm drawn to the darker green, a little more forest green. And something more about maybe it's kind of like burnt, like the middle orange as well, the kind of orangey burnt orange, maybe not burnt orange, but kind of middle orangey one. They're the ones that I feel like sort of drawn to.
Excellent. So just to touch base, when you were picking those, you were just picking what you were drawn to, what jumped off the
Yeah,
page.
yeah, I wasn't.
Simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not hard. Okay,
No, not hard
good.
at all.
Great. So the first color that you picked it's actually a violet color.
I think violet.
And Yes, these are going to look different. Studio
I
lights,
am a
everything.
typical man. I don't make all the color distinctions.
That's all right. What I'm using is paint swatches. Thank you to my local hardware store. So this is something that's free and accessible to anyone who can get to a paint store. You picked this violet as your first color. That's the make and model of your car. That's kind of where you come from. The violet energy frequency is also related to the crown chakra, which is the first chakra outside of the body. It's a frequency that doesn't resonate so strong with physical matter, but it's the first frequency that we use in our bodies that is outside of, like, I don't want to say outside of physical realm, we'll just call it
Mhm.
that for short terms, but in class we get a little bit deeper. And so this violet shows me that everything that you do and bring forward in life is going to be a innovative, like, future filled with spiritualism. It's like cutting the weeds down in a field so we can have better sight. Like, you're going to go in a bit like a warrior, somebody who has a lot of strength around this field, and have the confidence to step forward and say, hey, this is what you're talking about. In my opinion, this is wrong. And let me tell you, let me show you my points, my view. So you feel very bold in being forward with your insight. You're not wishy-washy with
Mhm.
things, if we want to say it like that. But I would say, I bet it's really hard for you to stay in your body. I bet you have times where it's like confusing to be human and do routine things. It'll feel mundane, almost useless to you. So you have to really get geared up to do some of these basic human skills because you're so driven into, we'll call it the beyond spiritual 5D,
Mhm.
uh, otherworldly planes. That's what drives you.
There's a lot.
Everything you do is going to be based on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of resonance with what you shared.
This, I'm actually surprised. So the second card is gas in the car. It's a green, it's a heart energy. When it's the darker color, so when you're observing colors, there's different hues, lighter, darker, more muddy, and that's going to shift the meaning or the frequency that's conveying, what information is in it. And the darker green heart, yes, it's more anchored, it's more rooted, but it also will move forward with a sense of, I have a wound, it's in my past. I didn't like it. I don't want to come across it again. And I want to make sure that it doesn't happen. And so you react and make choices against a past memory or wound or incident that wasn't in alignment to your soul or to your purpose. And that will show up in your work and how you, like, spiritually, otherworldly wake people up. You know, you'll, like, almost a warning sign. This is pain. This is suffering you don't need. This is, and guide away from it.
Hmm, that's interesting.
That's,
That
I'm,
one I have to kind of work with a little bit more, but I can see some of what you're saying for sure.
it's interesting combo. Orange is keys in the hand. That's the motivation. Orange is related to sacral chakra. It's related to emotions, creativity, freedom. Freedom to me, like when I see orange and it's a healthy orange, you were like middle of the line orange, pure hue. This is this sense of autonomy, freedom, freedom for self, freedom for all. And it's like why you're rushing to get to the car. You're like, I'm going to set these people free. I'm going to, whether it's educate them who they are or who they can be, or show them alternative paths so that they can get out of their cages.
Hmm, cool. That's great. That's a really fascinating reading. And so what you're wanting to do is like sort of get all those three colors and then and then figure out the relationship between each. So there's sort of like a dynamic between each of the three colors.
Yes, because when you start pairing different frequencies together, they'll have different relationships.
Hmm. And so
Yeah.
and did that correspond with what you were perceiving when you were looking at my field?
I, the violet, hands down, absolutely. The dark green, no, I did not. I saw a different green. It was more of a bright, look at the difference, a bright lime green.
Uh-huh.
more of like a passion for
Okay.
life.
Interesting. Well, you were in the right genre though with green, which is cool. I mean, it could be that there's just a little bit of without going into any detail, there's just a lot of collective heaviness in the air these days, and so it's sort of seen perhaps picking up a little bit as like kind of gravitating towards a little bit like a deeper green versus a kind of a brighter, sunnier kind of green as well, just in the moment.
That is true. And anytime you're working with subtle light energy, it's called subtle for a reason. It
Hmm.
likes to shift and morph and change. It's the personality and the expression of the person that is slower to shift and change. So you could come back to this with a different thought, a different mindset. You just experience something new and be drawn to a different set of colors, which would then express where you were at that time stamp.
That's interesting. And so all the interpretations you were offering kind of align with that. How would you build on that and sort of think about the interface or the relationship between the colors in terms of like applying that to my life?
Well, usually I would start off, and I don't know if this is the appropriate place to do it, but there would be a reason why you would want to tap into that. So there would be I need more clarity in my life. And if it was a clarity aspect, I would linger more in the darker green
Hmm.
because the darker hues will typically represent the kind of work that needs to be done. Like I'm holding too much of that frequency and it's anchoring me in a way where I'm not as fluid. And so that heavy heart is what the dark green can be kind of translated to. And of course, when you're in class and we're finding definitions and meanings to frequencies, you'll develop your own words about it.
Hmm.
What's so wonderful though, even though somebody else might perceive that dark green different, it's the energy recipe of connecting the reader to the readee that allows the reading, the information to come forward in the way that it needs. So even though I'm a different element, but my energy with your energy is going to communicate in a way that I can understand. If somebody else is doing the reading, your information would be presented in a way that they can understand. It would still be similar, like coming up with core information, but we all have our different perspective and our different lenses. And
Hmm.
so we start to develop a way to unite with each other through our differences, honoring what each person can see to kind of come together. But at the core, it remains the same. It's very interesting.
Hmm. So it sounds like you kind of let go a little bit of like this idea that there's just one right interpretation because it's emerging in the dance between you and the person.
Absolutely. Yes.
Nice. Well, that's really helpful, and it kind of also takes you out of the mode of thinking, is that the right answer or the wrong answer? It's more just trusting what the associations that start to emerge.
Yeah, it really helps you build a deeper connection with your personal intuitive abilities. You're no longer chasing the right answer in an external focus. You're looking internally and staying grounded and rooted and building your relationship, your trust, your validity with your ability. And the more you do that, the easier, the better it gets, and the more you can access this information at any time, like whatever task you're in, buying groceries, having a conversation, with a boss, like anywhere.
Hmm. So it sounds like you're also using these a bit, kind of almost like an oracular fashion, where you're drawing like a tarot card or something that you're sort of like what you're drawn to at different moments or in response to different questions or queries might be different. It sounds like.
Yeah, you could sit down and focus on a question. So that goes back to you were asking, like, how do I take this and apply this? It could be you sat down and you had a question, and then you looked at what colors you were drawn to and read what that meant for you. And that would give you action steps to take, or deeper insight. But you could also sit down and use this without cards and sit and use your unique style of perceiving energy with your animal companion, with your plant that is struggling somehow. And so you can understand what they're going through and get information from that.
Hmm.
The color cards, it's cheeky, it's fun, it's surprisingly accurate. And it's something for somebody to hold on to and have a tangible experience. But the cards aren't necessarily needed. It's helping you use the cards to better understand how you're picking up on that information. So they're training wheels for you to do. And it's easy when you get people together, it's not as like mysterious as tarot can be with the
Uh-huh.
hangman and the hermit, the
Yeah.
mystic, and all of these things. It's like color, it's non-threatening. And you can even
Yeah.
sit down with kids. I used to do this with my kids, and I'd lay out the colors and I'd go, what do you like if you were a monster and you were really hungry and all you could eat was color, what would you go for? And they'd pick a card. And I'm like, oh, this is telling me about you. And you can even translate into look at what you chose to wear today. That says something about you as well, frequency wise, what you're attracted to.
Very interesting. Well, this is great. So we've talked a little bit more just about applying it for self. Let's talk about like how you start reading others or bringing this into how you understand and engage with others in a way that helps them optimize for their life. How much you kind of use this in sort of like starting to turn on the perception and then see what colors you're picking up and how to then use that in a way that's helpful.
Well, I'm hoping we're getting to a place where we don't have to turn things on anymore and we are able to get to a place where we leave the lights on and we
Mm.
don't have to adapt anymore by turning them off. We're if I may be so bold in saying that we're evolving so quickly these days. Mass consciousness is growing. The accessibility to mass knowledge and information is growing, but it's going to require you to live in your sensitive body, not so much that linear 3D human body of yours, which is beautiful, by the way, but you have this other layer on top of your senses. So it wouldn't be a turning on, but it would be more of, hey, now that I'm aware of what that frequency looks like, feels like to me, shows up in my body, what images, what words it presents to me, now when I'm feeling that, expressing that, holding that, I am aware that that person is emitting that frequency and I have a little bit more information about where they're coming from. I think it's the almost like the half step into telepathy. You're getting information without speaking or sharing it, but it might not be as detailed as you're looking for. That would come with the clarity of communication, which is something else I like to talk about in class is like, how do you talk about what you do? What word choice do you have? How do you engage with family and friends about your abilities as well?
Mm. Yeah, I think it's worth presencing some of that now, since it's obviously something you've had to go through, and I think a lot of folks have to navigate these sensitivities in a way. So maybe share, how you've really learned to navigate those things.
Yes, it's a must. So I wanted to step back. You were just asking how to apply it in day-to-day life. I got hung up on kind of saying I really want people just to leave their lights on, but it's something that you can apply in the middle of a conversation by observing, perceiving people's frequencies as they shift, as they talk to you. So this can help you understand if somebody's really being honest, vulnerable, if they're being authentic with you, if they're trying to manipulate a situation. And you're doing this without your heady, analytical, mental skills. You're doing this with your highly more fine-tuned psychic intuitive
Hmm.
skills. And so in that, you're able to still stay calm. You don't end up being in a strategy. You don't end up putting up defenses because it's a great way to connect. Sometimes words, I mean, we have more words for separate, war, disconnect than we do connection and unity and together. So when you go to speak, it naturally provides a space or a distance between people. So if you're using your light body to get that information, you're going to stay present longer in situations. It's going to be less confrontational. And then you can use that to help create safe spaces in any kind of circumstance.
That makes total sense. What are some of the patterns in terms of seeing other people that you might be typical in terms of seeing if they're being honest with you or direct with you or being authentic or vulnerable? What do you tend to actually pick up in terms of light patterns?
I'm married. I've been married now for 20, going on 23 years. Love him to death. And when we first got together, it was just a learning curve that he couldn't hold secrets from me because I can see them, I can perceive them. So if he were to tell a little white lie or just kind of try to hide something for me, because maybe it was a surprise, something good, his light body would turn a fall leaf brown. It was a pretty brown, but it was brown. And I would immediately say, baby, is there something that you really want to tell me? It looks like you're not being honest. And it was just like, oh, it was like, oh, stop looking at me. I was like, it's not about a look, it's also about a feel. And in that, we promised that when we had kids, I wouldn't share my abilities with my kids. If they were going to have them, we wanted them to have this naturally, the way that I came into it. And when they were old enough, if they wanted to ask, I would teach. My son, when he first started speaking, started telling things were ugly. And he got really upset with my husband one day, pointing at him, screaming, "You're ugly, you're ugly, you're ugly, you're ugly." And he was like, "He's yours. Like, I don't know what to do with him." And so I came in and I was like, "What's happening?" I looked at my husband's energy. He was fall leaf brown. And I said, "You lied to him. What'd you lie about?" He goes, "The boy wants dessert right now. We're about to have dinner." And I told him we didn't have any. I go,
Oh.
"But we do." He goes, "I know that, but I told him no because I didn't know how to rationalize with him." I go, "Well, he's calling you ugly because you don't look like a rainbow anymore. You're brown." He goes, "I don't know what to do in this family." He's like, I don't know what to do."
That's a hilarious story. That's a hilarious story.
Yeah.
That is
So
interesting. And so both of your children ended up with this gift as well?
yes, they did. They did. My son around age 11 just asked me one day, he's like, "Mama, this is too much for me." He's like, "I need to either pick to be Luca and be here, or I need to go." Like he couldn't handle it. So we had to have a real heavy conversation about what it was like to say goodbye to these abilities and not have them.
Hmm.
And that's where he is right now currently, but my daughter is still in the middle of it.
Oh. So it kind of makes sense to like a muddy brown sort of is like you're obscuring truth or you're clouding your natural radiant colors. Any other patterns that you sort of notice that are pretty quick tells of something to be aware of, like in somebody
Yeah,
maybe?
gray. When gray is in the first, it's commonly somebody who is taking a chemical that isn't resonating with their body. So if somebody maybe had ADHD and they were on Ritalin, but it's not really what their body needed, but it was just managing it. So it's almost like a factory shutdown. And so that's something to be aware of. Or it also will show up with addiction, alcoholism, too much alcohol in the body. It's not what the body is doing. So it has this kind of gray hue to it. One of my favorite things is seeing pink on someone because pink isn't really a color. It's like an aspect of green, actually. And it's very like human made. You have to really present that frequency because you don't have a chakra that's making it. You don't have one that's naturally producing it. So when you see pink, it's almost like this, "Please don't look at me. I really want to be a fly on the wall. And I'm just going to get comfortable with you." So it's like an introvert coming out. "Don't look at me." But then when they get comfortable in the situation and you go back to them, they're the ones on top of the table dancing and like getting everybody rowdy, like, "Come on and join me." You're like, "Who are you? You were this tiny little fly on the wall and then you bloomed same night." So it's somebody that's needing the security of, "Don't look at me. I'm really kind. I'm sweet. I'm loving. Please, I don't mean you any harm. I'm pink. Okay, I'm pink. It's good." And then they just kind of move through it. It's a really beautiful thing to witness and be a part of.
That's really cool. So it's almost pink is a bit of a shield then because it's like it's not so you're sort of part of what it sounds like is that you're sourcing some of the energies out of your natural emitting frequencies, and so then that kind of like becomes more predominant when you're drawing from one of your own energy sources and chakras.
Yes, it's very, very true.
Yeah, that's interesting. So are there other times that it feels like there's particular chakras or layers of the energy body that would tend to kind of get pulled out or move forward or come to the foreground like that?
Teachers, preachers, ministers, things of that nature, yellow than blue. When I see yellow and blue, I'm like, "What do you want to teach me?" I'm definitely not going to talk to you about how I feel because you're not going to get it. I'm going to be on time because you won't respect me if I'm not going to be on time. And if I can't be on time, I'll let you know, I promise. I'll keep my promise. A yellow and a blue has to have that.
Uh-huh. So that's kind of
But if
getting
it's
at what you were talking about earlier with motivation. So that's like, so when you're, if your motive is your agenda is to teach something, get it across, you might as well work with that agenda rather than fight it.
Oh, absolutely. I was hired by a large corporation that we all know to pretend to be a secretary. It was a very big merger of two companies. And I pretend to sit there and take notes, but really I was observing to see the motivation of the other company. And then we would take breaks, and then the corporate team would come to me and go, "Okay, what did you see? What did you pick up on?" And I'd be like, well, this person needs this. That person lit up when you said this word, and this happened here. So you can track the frequencies off somebody and understand really what their needs are if they can't vocalize them. This would be even really good for non-speakers, for spellers who aren't communicating verbally, or Alzheimer's, people who have brain damage, strokes, looking at their energy to understand what information that they're conveying to you and what needs need to be fulfilled.
Hmm.
So that was a lot of fun that I got
What
to
a
be in.
fascinating application. I never would have thought large companies would be hiring somebody for that purpose in terms of energetic readings like that. But very practical and
It
really gives
was,
a sense for some of the potential implications of this work. Very cool.
yes, it was very wild. And at the end, the company that hired me got exactly what they wanted because they knew how to speak to the other team. So it felt very successful.
Very interesting, yeah, application. So, yeah, so I'd love to ask a little just more about that. That you're saying that the needs kind of get, so deeper needs, kind of like we were talking about, get infused or kind of almost like amplify those color frequencies in your field. So it's sort of like you're intuiting the deeper need by seeing the light pattern that's associated with that.
Absolutely. Like your deep violet says a lot
Hmm.
about what your needs are. Your needs are going to be based around otherworldly, like the need to be around that knowledge, or to provoke people into those conversations to fill your, or to saturate. I'm trying to think of a word like where you bathe in that frequency. Because if we place you in a mundane career, like a 9 to 5, where you have to stick to time frames and repeat something again and again, your light would just fritz out. It would want to die. It would go into deep depression. You would pull away because it's not fulfilling to you, where it can be
But
very fulfilling to somebody else.
when you were saying that, I was recalling when I was like fresh out of college and I was just needing a temporary job. I ended up getting a temporary placement in a law office where they were like Xeroxing this whole room full of things. You had to take off all the paper clips and Xerox. I did like 2 days in that and I was like, wow, that is hell.
Oh my God. I cannot imagine your light doing that. Yeah.
So I'm a little better situated now, drawing out the wisdom from thought leaders around the world, it sounds like.
Yes. So yes, like the way you present your energy, I would know that you absolutely need freedom. Bottom line, you advocate that for so many others with that bright orange as the motivation of showing up. So I wouldn't pigeonhole you into anything. It wouldn't work.
Mhm.
So that would help you fulfill the need that you're looking for to have a healthy or supported lifestyle, well-being.
Hmm. Really fascinating. Well, we've been talking a little bit more about me. It'd be interesting, anything you want to share more about yourself and your own discoveries of your own, how you amplify your own colors and needs out with, you talked about being, the whole desire to fit in and belong. How does that show up for you?
Well, it was a lot of lesson work, I guess we could call it that. Being comfortable with who I am, being comfortable with the idea that differences bring us together. So I found in my work, being in my light body, observing the colors and the frequencies that I emit, when I talk about what I'm able to perceive, my light grows tenfold.
Hmm.
And I recognize that's how passion presents. You get really fluffy and like blows up. The textures of your light change. You start shining out more. People who are more narcissistic, egocentric, they shine in, they feed themselves their own energy. It's a cycle
Oh, that's
thing.
fascinating. That's
Mm.
fascinating.
something you got to be aware for.
That can definitely give you some clues about who to avoid.
Oh my God. There's one time I lived in New York City for a short stint, 6 months, and we went to a restaurant. It was a tiered restaurant, and I'm sitting on the lower level, and there's a guy up top, and his energy was like black, just absent. And I told the person I was with, I go, I can't sit here, I can't sit next to that. And we waited a long time. So the person I was with was quite upset with me. But we moved. And once we got placed, this person with the darker energy, just black, had a blow up yelling conversation, flung a chair, like it was a real thing, like a
Oh
tiny
my goodness.
brawl at a restaurant in the city. And I looked at the person I was with, like, what? Like, we would have been right under that. Come on.
Wow, that's
And he was
amazing.
just like, whatever. Like he just wanted to ignore it. And I was like, you got to notice these things. Like you don't have to be next to people or in environments that you don't resonate with. And that's also kind of how I've noticed how it's helped me is being aware of what I'm perceiving and how my energy shines. I can identify quicker if I'm in a conversation that's in alignment with me, or am I doing old indoctrinated things that my wonderful Southern mother taught me how to do, which is yes, sir, no, sir, stay present, make sure everybody else is okay. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And that's as a
Sounds like a
highly
lot of
sensitive
brown.
person.
Sounds like a lot of brown, probably.
Yes. A lot of bless your heart too.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like as a highly sensitive, we need to prioritize ourselves. So I'm quicker to leave a situation, easier to take care of myself, and to notice what I'm in alignment with.
Yeah, sounds like real and very practical skills for anybody who's sensitive and open in particular, and really for anybody. This is fascinating, Jamie. Really, really loving your insights and the specificity of some of your stories too. Really bring it alive. So let's
Thank
talk about your upcoming course that we mentioned, because this is really a great opportunity for people to get sparked by this and want to like open these the ability or channel the skills and really be able to do this in a way that is practical, like you just showed with many of your examples to dive in with you. And so we're really blessed that Jamie's teaching this brand new program. It's called The Art of Reading Light Energy. Tune in to subtle energies to receive deep intuitive wisdom and activate your unique psychic style. You can find it at the URL readlightenergy.com, readlightenergy.com. 7-week program. You don't have to have any prerequisites for this. It's just if
you.
you're intuitively drawn, you want to open the eyes of seeing how this is possible and beginning and developing the skills yourself, you're really welcome. So, Jamie, you want to share a little bit about some of your intentions for what people will come away from the program with, and then we can go through the modules. I'll read them out.
Oh, I mean, my intent for you to come away with is to understand what each frequency means to you, what information it's trying to convey to you, how it matches to you, so that when it's happening to you in real time, that you can collect that and translate that into the information to use. So, like all the little circumstances we mentioned before. And I also, my my big, I mean, we say big passion, but it's to wake you up to your own ability. I want you to find your words. I want to see the excitement in your eyes. Even if you've been on the path for 30 years and you do readings for people, what if you were actually trained or taught, and so you're fitting into that one way of seeing it when you have this deeper, wider, expansive way of connecting to subtle light energy? Like this would be a very simple first step into that direction to open that up as well. And so like you mentioned, you don't need to have any studies, but even if you've been on the path for a little while and want to find it more in alignment with you, this is a great place to start.
Great. Well, so module 1 is called Harness Subtle Energy to Decode Your Body's Signals.
Ooh, this is where we get into we talk about chakras in the series. So we're going to do the fire chakras, red, orange, yellow. And then we take those characteristics, link them to the color, and start linking emotions and how emotions show up in your body. So we're slowly building this cheat sheet for you.
Module 2, Discover Your Unique Blueprint for Sensing Subtle Energy.
That's where we're going to help you figure out what you do best. Clairvoyant, clairaudient, claircognizant, clairsentient. I have a little exercise that I'll walk you through. And then you might find that you're all of them. You're just multi-clear. And we'll also get into the cooling chakras, the green, blue, indigo, and then we'll match some emotions to those as well to continue to build the cheat sheet.
Module 3, explore your beliefs about chakras in the auric field to refine your energy perception.
We're going to get into a heated debate maybe on this one. So there's so many different ways to view what the aura is, whether it's fixed or fluid. And so we're going to get into a discussion so that you can figure out what your belief system is about that. So you'll know how to express the information that you're getting from subtle light energy, especially when you're doing the color card layout. We'll go over the out of body chakras. That's going to be crown, higher consciousness, and earth chakra. And if there's time, we'll tap into some more emotions and link them into chakras as well.
Module 4, match frequencies to decode the first 2 layers of your auric field.
All right, this is where we're going to get your color cards out, or you're going to get a journal out, and we're going to start organizing everything, your images, thoughts, feelings, emotions, to the color. So now whenever you're associated to red, you know this is what it means for you. And then we'll start pairing red to orange, red to yellow, red to green, and we're going to go through all of the colors that way.
Module 5, master 3 frequency readings to deepen your energy insights.
So we're taking the pairs and we're adding the third. This is the motivation. And the motivation can change everything. How you show up, your perception can color everything that you're doing. So we'll really talk about that third layer characteristic and tie the first 3 colors together.
Module 6, refine energy combinations to build confidence in your interpretations.
This is like, what is really going on? Let's have a deeper conversation about how this really works for us. And then we'll clarify some of the material that you're looking at so that you understand how to organize the first 3 colors to a question or to a person or the application of it.
And finally, Module 7, protect your energy and honor your craft by reading responsibly.
Yes, this is find your words. You know, what's your vocabulary around this? How are you protecting your energy? And is protection really the right word? Some people use filter. Some people just have a faith base. Some people don't even believe in that. So it's getting clarity around your belief system of how energy is exchanged and how you're going to show up with this information that you can now obtain from subtle light energy.
Well, what a cool and practical course. And I love your insights, particularly just all the different color frequencies. The way you talk about it is really illuminating and I think unique. And so I know this is going to be super valuable. Again, there's more detail at readlightenergy.com. In addition to the 7 90-minute sessions that Jamie just described, which are all going to be live, so you can ask your questions live and engage in exercises. There's real power in coming together as a community and a group around this work. You also get recordings for every session, which are both video and audio, as well as word-for-word transcripts. There'll be weekly practices that you can do at home. There's a Facebook community to support you and build a network of community around the work, and also a number of extra bonuses, which you can see at readlightenergy.com. Just to hit some highlights, there's a beautiful PDF guide from Jamie that includes detailed charts of 9 chakras with insights into their frequencies, associated crystals, aromas, and more. There's a meditation MP3 audio called Polarizing Breathwork, balancing positive and negative energy currents in your body. I like that you're kind of using a positive spin on polarizing, which often has a negative connotation, but this is more about balancing the positive and negative. So you share a little bit about that?
It is. It's taking the positive current energy in the body and the negative current energy in the body, right to left, above, below, and it's running that breath work and imagery through the body in a repetitive manner so that you can balance those frequencies out. Once you balance that out, you're living mostly in the Sushumna, the Hara line, the pranic tube, that neutral energy that rests in the center line of the body. And then it's easier for you to step into your day-to-day human life because you're coming from a non-triggered, grounded space.
Great stuff, all those bonuses. And I also want to make sure folks are aware there's a third bonus that you get when you sign up by midnight tonight. Is our special bonus, that just the launch bonus, that when you decide to move forward right away, you're going to get a special incentive to do so. It's 4 key points to know when working with light energy. This is a special video that Jamie's creating for you. Jamie, you want to share about the 4 key points?
Yeah, I love this one. To me, I find like after teaching for 30 odd years and helping people kind of come to, there's key points that humans kind of don't know what to do with. And it's looking at, is it my imagination or is it my intuition? Is it my imagination or thought, or I'm generating it, or is it coming from outside? So we go over that, and each of the categories have an experience for you to go through so that you can collect your own answers from it. Then I also look at extremes. You have to know how to engage with extreme subtle light energy. So yes and no. How does that show up in your body? We look at word choice, and I kind of boil that down to like stagnant words, life alienating words, versus action words and life connecting words. So how are you engaging in this with word frequency? And then lastly, we go over the final point, which is your perception, which colors everything that you experience.
Super practical insights, and really, it sounds really illuminating, quite literally, as you're looking at the light dimensions. So again, this is all the details are on this course are at readlightenergy.com and includes all those 3 bonuses. When you sign up by tonight, you'll get the 3rd bonus on the 4 key points to know when working with light energy. There's also, we've kept the investment for this program very accessible. It's just 3 payments of $128, or you save 10% when you pay in full with 1 payment of $349. The course is going to start March 13th and run Thursdays at 9 Pacific, noon Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. So there's some great testimonials on the page. Jamie inspires me to love myself in a more intimate, gentler, kinder, and empowered way. Inspired me to go much deeper on my spiritual gifts. Creates a space of reverence and sensitivity. A lot of great testimonials of folks who have studied with Jamie and benefited from her work. And I like this one. She's the clearest and most accurate medium I've ever come across. So you're in
Wow.
really good hands, and you, I think, will come away with some really beautiful new skills and eye-opening capacities to work with color and light frequencies in our subtle bodies in a new way. So again, it's all at readlightenergy.com, and you'll get the 4 keys bonus when you sign up by midnight tonight. Okay, well, Jamie, I've really loved our time together. I loved your readings of me too, and really fascinating stories and insights. And I love the unique way that you're working with color and understanding that in relationship to our subtle bodies. Anything that's still on your heart you want to share with folks who are considering doing the full course with you?
I like to say that if anything resonated with you and you were curious or interested, it piqued your interest at all, definitely research more in that area. Whether it's going to be with me or some other fabulous teacher here on Shift Network, do continue that journey. But if you think we match, like the lightheartedness, the straightforward talk, there's possibly going to be some humor and some work on your end to get to know yourself better, and that resonates with you, go for it. Give yourself permission to follow through. There were many times in my life that I found somebody that worked for me, but I was hesitant because maybe I took a class or a course somewhere else and it just wasn't a good fit. But trust your gut. Go with the first instinct, not your second guessing. And I really hope to be your cheerleader to help you gain trust and validation in your skills and answer and help you along the way as you develop that. I would be ever so honored. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jamie. You've been a delight. Thank you all for joining, and I look forward to seeing many of you in the Art of Reading Light Energy.
Yes.
And you'll get the special bonus if you sign up by tonight. So thank you so much.